Hello, Field Commander. I'm gonna do a video response this time. Um, anyway, yeah, your video response to me, I understand where you're coming from. I'm also familiar with a lot of parents in the organizations, and for example, I know about, and some of them are actually involved with CAN or DAN. I know CAN is more of a political awareness body, whereas DAN is like a doctor's organization. So you have things like DAN doctors, and they have conferences where they invite a lot of parents. And you know, DAN doctors are considered by most doctors in the medical community to be a lot of them to be alternative, also more like alternative medicine doctors, because they are doing things that are not considered part of medical research or that body of research. They're considered doing things that are more on their own lines of research that are usually based off the efforts of, doctors who are trying to defeat autism, which, I mean, what they're really doing is just probably altering a person's body in a way that might maybe it can help some kids, but there's also a few dangers. And there's safe parts with like methyl B12 shots, and maybe it's not so safe in some cases. You have to be very careful because, again, some of the doses can be kind of high, and it can be neurotoxic to some kids. So one has to be very careful. But DAN doctors are often so. The reason I say be careful about DAN is because they can be very absolutist in their thinking. You ask one of them, well, should I try chelate? Even though there's no positive hair mercury tests, there's no positive tests. Should I treat my child as if they had a positive test? And sometimes they say I read one doctor saying he gives a resounding yes to that, question, why? And it just seems to me that this doctor is just being a little bit overzealous, so. And chelation has many forms. It can be intravenous, intramuscular, and oral, just like any kind of medication. Intravenous is considered the riskiest, but also maybe the more effective ways of doing it. The history of chelation goes way back to when people had, worked at nuclear facilities. They're trying to get rid of radioactive elements like americanum or plutonium or something like that, or platinum, in the body. Also metals like lead, arsenic, and mercury. But I mean, most of that was for emergency type use. Usually they wouldn't even consider chelation unless there was sufficient level of radiation poisoning to justify it. And so it was considered a high-risk procedure. I mean, it can cause kidney failure because of the amount removed. It has to be done very slowly. Anyway, some people there's so many different agents that are used, and all of them have different efficacies, and I would definitely research. Some people, there's another form that's kind of come out called transdermal, and I've done and investigated a lot of this myself in the past, so I know what I'm talking about in terms of this, because I've been involved in research for a long time. It's actually not really my specialty. My biggest specialty is in understanding, the brain structures more or less, like the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the various brain regions. However, I do study things like chelation from time to time. So yeah, I'm familiar with also the herbal types of chelation, garlic, onion, cilantro, Mexican cilantro, Brazilian cilantro, all the different kinds of herbal remedies. They're basically based off of chemicals that are supposed to be able to kill or basically bind with some of the smaller kinds of metals. Not those, however, cannot do mercury or some of the heavier metals like lead because of the size, but they do bind away some of the smaller, more harmful metals. But one problem that you can get with that is that you can bind metals that you sometimes actually want. So, like your vitamins, natural vitamin trace vitamins. So you, again, have to be careful, make sure to follow up anything like that with vitamins. For kidney function, make sure drinking lots of water. For the treatment, chelation treatment itself, I mean, it's got to be done very slowly. And again, it's so high risk. It's why it's considered alternative medicine still, and Dan doctors are kind of organized outside of the realm of regular medicine. And again, I think they're a little bit too overzealous of a crowd sometimes, putting children risks. Putting risks, a child at risk at times. They're willing to put a child at risk. Some of them seem very willing to put a child at risk when in the name of defeating autism, thinking it's better to risk a child's life than it is to live with autism. So you gotta balance what you're looking at with some of the people who belong to this organization. It's very groupthinky, and that's why I'm kind of wary of it. I haven't done chelation, but I've done some things close to it, and I've also had my blood, rotated through machines for things like platelet collection and other kinds of analysis done and other kinds of treatments done, but not chelation, although something kind of close to that, and I'll get into that another day. I also know I have a very high eosinophil count, which is, I don't know if you know about eosinophils, but it's something you might want to research as well. Anyway, that's something that's another indicator of autism in a lot of people, and I just happen to have a very high measure of that in my own bloodstream. Anyway, so again, I can't tell every parent what to do, but I do think Defeat Autism Now is guided by some principles I'd be wary of. And I don't think you're saying you're associated with that, but some of the pro-chelation and Mercury type of thinking that, and Kirby gets used by that group quite a bit, by the way, it seems like. Yeah, he's open. And also, if you notice now, a lot of the since the recent studies debunking the link, a lot of them now have disclaimers on their websites acknowledging it now. So they've kind of done a 180. Their tunes have all changed a little bit to try to fit modern trends, so they don't turn too many parents away, I think. But I don't know, it seems pretty wish-washy to me in some ways, and it seems like a do or die at all costs type of treatment. So I'd be careful. I mean, what you've done seems like it's doable. I mean, you've definitely not harmed your son in a way that I can tell, and it seems like you've done actually a lot of good. So I mean, if it works, I mean, nutritional supplements work, they work. If a certain diet works, it works. I'm not sure about the other shot that you mentioned, the glutathione shot. I really don't have very much information on that. If you can go into detail on that more, I'd be happy to listen to what you know about it. Again, this stuff is not my huge in terms of autism and medical research. That's not a huge area that I tend to study or like to study, because it just well, particularly chelation is just not all that interesting to me. Shots, not so much, but I mean, I do like I do research vitamins and nutrition a lot because I'm trying to take care of it for myself. Things like carnosine or L-carnitine or some of the ginkgo biloba or ginseng, things like that, or other things that people take. They might have some value. So anyway, I think that's all I've got. I'll try to maybe come back later to some of this. I'm starting to ramble again, so really can't edit myself in stream here. I'll sign out here. Thanks.